Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
Hello and welcome to USA Global TV and Radio. Our show today is Dementia Home Care, and my name is Tracy Cram Perkins. I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, USA Global TV and Radio. I am a 4-time dementia caregiving survivor and the author of Dementia Home Care, How to Prepare Before, During, and After. And today I have a little treat for you. I want to spend a little bit of time teaching you about how to recognize and make your bathroom more dementia friendly. So let's get started. So before we begin, I want to give you a little background about myself because I don't generally tend to talk about myself while we're on the air together. So I want to tell you about how my Alzheimer's story started. My story started with a panic phone call from my younger sister when she found my father unconscious in his apartment. And when he came to in the hospital a week later, he was diagnosed with moderate Alzheimer's disease. And because I didn't have the proper power of attorney, they would not allow me to take him home with us because they assumed that, like many people, he would be placed back in his apartment by himself and he'd be back in the hospital 3 days later. So that began the journey where my father was taken to a group home. He knew he didn't belong there, and he was the only person that wasn't bedridden. So all he wanted to do was go for walks. And so he would escape every time somebody's back was turned. Now, if you don't know about group homes, they tend to have 2 employees, and they are taking care of a lot of people, or short-staffed, I should say. And so my dad was a little too much of a handful for them. And we at the time weren't well enough educated about dementia that we ended up having a headbutting relationship with them because we couldn't understand why my dad kept escaping. He would just wait till their back was turned and go for a walk. And then they'd have to go chase after him. And so what they did is they gave him a medication to make him calm down and be more compliant. And instead, he became hyperactive. He had hallucinations and he threatened to kill his roommate. And as a result, they sent him to a geriatric psych ward. And my family and I had to spend several hours calling around to find out where he went because the staff wouldn't tell us. And part of that was our fault. We didn't understand what was going on, why they were having these issues with him. We didn't understand that we could actually help make it easier for them. And instead, we were being combative, and that was not their fault. But I can also understand why they didn't want to help us. So when we found my father, he was taped to a bed in a hospital 1 county to the north of us. And when we got there, he was crying and he was saying to me, "Why are they doing this to me? Why are they doing this to me? I don't understand." And of course, social services would not allow us to take him home with us. And we began a repeat pattern where they would send him to the next more secure facility in our area. Fortunately, they brought him back to our county. And he would have 5 escapes and then he'd be sent to another facility. After 5 months and 5 facilities and 1 more trip to a geriatric psych ward, he finally made his last 2 escape attempts. He was in the most secure facility in the area, and he figured out there was a flaw in the windows, and he figured out how to get out of through his window in his room. What he did is he waited until his roommate was going off to physical therapy because he was in a skilled nursing care facility at the time. And he left the door partially open to the room and he stayed in his pajamas and slippers. And you have to understand that even though he had moderate Alzheimer's disease, he still remembered his skills from his day job, from when he was working. And so what he did is he noticed a flaw in the way the plate glass windows were mounted in his room. So he unscrewed the window, lifted the glass out, climbed out in his pajamas and slippers, put the window back in, and screwed it back in properly. So he solved a problem they didn't even know they had. But that meant that there were no cameras facing patient windows. And so nobody saw him leave. And it wasn't until an hour later that they realized my father, who had been wristbanded and should have set off an alarm, had escaped somehow and they didn't know how he got out. There was no visible sign. 30 minutes later, 911 started getting call about an elderly gentleman in pajamas and slippers crossing a Highway 99 in our area, which was a 5-lane highway against the light. And people were calling saying there's this elderly gentleman in pajamas and slippers walking against the light. That's how they found him. And here's where we caught our break. The sheriff that came and picked up my father saw him sitting there on the guardrail to the entrance to the interstate. And instead of yelling at him or trying to coerce him, he just walked up to him and said, "Hey, you look tired." My dad said, "Yes, I am." He said, "Would you like a ride home?" My dad said, "Yes." And he goes, "Have you ever been in a police car?" My dad said, "No." And he said, "Well, just hop in the front here and I'll tell you all about it." It was the first time my dad was treated like a human being. By the time he got back to the skilled care facility, we were all standing there waiting in the lobby for him. And the social worker asked him, "How did you get out?" Well, he was in such a good mood. He was really happy to show everybody how he did it. And so he walked us down to his room and showed how the flaw was in the other window. Well, he explained to the maintenance group how to repair it. And they found that 30% of the windows in that building had the same flaw. So he solved the problem for them. But do you think that changed how they treated him? No, they screamed at him every time he went near a door or a window instead of redirecting him. And so on his fifth and final escape attempt, it was a fluke. He hugged his favorite nurse goodbye as she was leaving on the end of her shift because they were near the front door. She just disabled the alarm temporarily so that when he walked away from the door, it would reset. And he gave her a hug. She walked outside. He waved at her as she was driving off, and he looked down, and there was the code for guests to log out. He logged out and went for his last walk 2 days before Christmas. Well, what happened is when they recovered him, they called me and said, "We're done. You have 5 days to find him another facility." Fortunately, we had just been granted power of attorney the day before. So what we did is we canceled Christmas with my family and we spent those 5 days trying to make our home dementia friendly, and it wasn't. So I want to share with you some of the things that I learned to help make bathing easier and the bathroom safer and more dementia friendly. So let's take a look at that. So first of all, we have to understand how the brain works with Alzheimer's disease. So on the left, you're seeing a healthy aged brain, age 55 and above. On the right, you are seeing a moderate Alzheimer's disease brain, and you're seeing it has holes and it's shrinking. Well, what's happening is the memories that were in those holes are gone. There's no way to recover those memories. But let's look at the way the brain works. Our entire lives, we have relied on our brains. And when we were in kindergarten, we first learned to tie our shoelaces. And with that knowledge, our brain has that burned in. Now, when we get to the second grade, we can tie more complex knots. And what happens is that our brain takes the information that we learned when we tied our shoelace, brings it forward to teach us how to do more complex knots, and we can learn faster. Our brain continues to do that through our entire lives so that as we learn things, we can apply the stuff we already know and then apply it to what we're learning and we go faster. But what happens when that information is gone? Your brain is now searching for it, but close to where it was, and is using whatever information was that is there that may not match what's going on in the situation around us. So when your loved one is doing strange things, or they're confused, or they're not answering you correctly, or they're coming up with something that doesn't match reality, our first instinct is to say, no, that's not right. Don't you remember we just did X? That doesn't help because they're living in their reality. They've trusted their brains their entire lives. Now you're telling them that they're a liar, that they're lying to you when they know they're telling you the truth. We have to become their place of safety and walk in their shoes and bring them back so that they feel safe and we can get them to do what we need to do to help them. So let's take a look at some ideas here. First of all, we need to understand how color works. When you've got somebody with dementia, black looks like a hole, white is great for disguises and contrast, red and blue are great for definitely highlighting items. Pastel is great for disguising things. So if you are trying to hide something, you can make it all one color or use the pastels and your loved one won't be able to see it. Here's why. With dementia comes a chromatopsia. It means that they can only see black, white, and the contrast of bright colors. In addition, with dementia, they also get tunnel vision. So they're only going to see between their eye level and their belly button. So they'll be focused on whatever's directly in front of them. And it's almost like they have tunnel vision, which they do. And they're only going to see the areas in that area. But if you don't have enough lighting, if it's not enough bright, it's not bright enough for them to see contrast, we can create fear. And we can also help them by using daylight lighting and perhaps a dimmer switch. If you can turn the light up so that they have a better ability to see, then it reduces the amount of fear. It will reduce glare and shadows. And we're going to look at some of the instances where this can help you. So now that we have kind of an understanding of what color can do, again, red and blue highlight. So let's just look at this now. When we are looking at a bathroom, you'll notice this white bathroom I have here in the left-hand corner. I picked this picture specifically because the only thing that you see popping out is the green plant. Now, when somebody is confused in the middle of the night and they're getting up to go to the bathroom, and you're going to wonder why they're not going to the bathroom in the right place, they think they're going to the right place. They're walking into the bathroom. They see something bright. They recognize that this is where they're supposed to be, and they go in the area where they see the bright color, where they see the contrast. So if we really want to make sure that they use the toilet, we might want to think about putting a red toilet seat on that toilet so that they can spot it when they come in there in the middle of the night or anytime during the day. And it helps aid them and prevent confusion. Now, I can't say it'll work perfectly every time, but you can at least give them a tool to empower them to make sure it helps you help them use the toilet. Now, let's look at something else. You can also use color in the shower and tub area. If they have a shower chair, you can place a contrasting colored towel across a white shower chair so that they can see it because sometimes they might be afraid and not want to go down. Well, what happens if you have black mats on the floor? Black appears like a hole to somebody with dementia, as well as navy blue and dark brown. So if you have any of those on the floor and they don't want to go in the bathroom, it could be because they see a hole and no one wants to fall in a hole. So again, just you have to look at this through the eyes of someone with dementia. Now, also with flooring, you also need to look and see, is it shiny? Does it have glare? Either one of those can make it look like it's icy or that it's water and they don't want to fall. So make sure the floor is not shiny, that it doesn't have any glare, and also that it's level. You want to make sure that it's not a slippery surface either, because again, we don't want our loved one to fall. Now, here's another thing. When somebody gets to moderate Alzheimer's disease or any of the moderate stages of dementia, you can experience with them when they look in the mirror and they don't recognize themselves, and they might think there's a stranger staring at them. Well, if they talk to it like they're a family member or somebody that makes them happy, then don't worry about it. But if they get upset and tell them the stranger is looking at you, fear is very real. For them, this is very real, and you need to address it just like it's the just like they are in their shoes. So what you want to do is tell them, I will take care of this. let me take you out of here and I will address this issue. And so you walk them to a place of safety, maybe their own room or someplace where they feel comfortable. Go back in there. And if this is the first time this is happening, slap wet paper towel up on that mirror. Voila, you no longer have a mirror. It is just covering on the wall. There's no longer a window or a stranger looking at them. And then you can bring them in. And then what you'll do afterwards, and we'll talk about this in a few minutes, is there's a few things that you can do also so that you don't have to inconvenience the rest of the family with taking away the mirror. But now the next thing we want to talk about, again, I talked about daylight lighting on a dimmer switch. If there's not enough contrast that they can't see something, perhaps they can't see the toilet because there's not enough contrast. And if you put a colored mat down below the toilet so they can see where it is, then enough lighting for them to see the contrast of the toilet against the wall and the floor for them not to be afraid to sit down on it. Also, use color to help them recognize where their soap and towels are. Um, Other things that you can do is remove clutter. Now, you'll see the very cluttered bathroom I have right there in the lower right-hand corner. I picked this because, yes, it's extreme, but it gives you an idea of how much confusion it can cause because you can't find anything on that counter. You also want to make sure you remove anything that looks like medical supplies or anything that could be confused with uh, cleaning supplies used as hairspray or cleaning supplies used as toothpaste. So you want to make sure that you look at this from their point of view. You want to make it look more like a bathroom. Now, here's one really important thing that people don't think about. As we get older, we lose our ability to stay warm, so we get cold. If you have us in a bathroom and it's not warm enough and you've got a loved one who's naked or doesn't have that much clothing on, they can get chilled very quickly after you bring them out of the bath or shower. So you might want to consider room temperature, or else having a warm towel or a warm bathrobe to put on them immediately after they get out of the shower or the bath, because you don't want them to get hypothermia. Because if they get hypothermia, it can happen very, very quickly. You may not recognize the signs because it looks a lot like just dementia behaviors. So you don't want your loved one going into hypothermia. So let's keep the bathroom warm. You might want to consider maybe putting in a little space heater or a radiant wall panel or something to keep the bathroom warm while they're in there. Or you can also do something like dignity wear so that you can wrap them in something and wash them underneath it so that they can still stay warm. All right, now let's move on. So another thing we want to talk about, again, I said hiding cleaning supplies. You don't want anything up there that could be mistaken for soap, shampoo, anything like that. But what about the faucets? Have you ever thought about what your faucets look like in the bathroom? Uh, are they lever? Are they a twist pull? Are they a turn? Does your loved one have arthritis and can they turn them? Can they use those knobs or levers? Also, do they turn in the proper direction? I, in my own house, had an emergency one time where we were just getting ready for a holiday and the faucet handle broke and I had to do a quick replacement and we could only get a universal adapter that we couldn't figure out how to fix and we had company coming in 20 minutes. So I slapped it in there and just assumed everyone would figure it out after I told them. Didn't work for the family member with dementia though. So make sure that they're turning in the correct direction. Also, are they properly labeled for hot and cold? You and I can figure it out. They cannot. Also, is the water in your bathroom 120 degrees or less? Now, let's talk about this. As we age, our skin thins. But the other thing to think about is our nerve endings also change. There's a little covering on the end of each nerve called a fat pad. Just like our skin, it thins. This is not the fat on your body, it is just the covering for the nerves. And so they're going to be more sensitive to heat and cold. They'll also be more sensitive to the pressure of the water. So if they are complaining or telling you it hurts, it's because it does hurt. It is really pelting their skin or it's burning them or they're getting too cold. So even though you've checked the water temperature on your wrist to make sure it's okay, you might have to adjust it and turn it down or up depending on how your loved one feels, or change the water pressure, or put perhaps a flow restrictor in so that you don't have as much water pressure coming on them, or use a handheld where you can actually adjust the water pressure. So just these little tips, if you don't know about them, how are you going to deal with it? Also, grab bars. Do you have grab bars in the tub shower area or by the toilet? You can easily install the raised toilet seats, and I'll show you a picture of that here in a few minutes, so that you at least have something for them to be able to get up and out of the bathroom with. Now, here's something people don't think about. Most people with dementia, the biggest accidents they have, the most common ones, are falls in the bathroom. Do you have the tub spout cushioned? You can get cushions from baby supply stores or online on Amazon or any of the online outlets. You want to make sure that they don't hit their head and injure themselves. Anything we can reduce fall risk, especially in the bathroom, is a really important thing to do. Now, another thing to think about is what kind of flush toilet do you have? If you have a loved one that has arthritis, you don't want to use the push button type of toilet. The arthritis in their hands they won't be able to have enough strength to flush the toilet, and you definitely want to install a lever or a pull toilet handle. Another thing to think about, again, raised toilet seats. If you have someone who is short or even someone that is tall and they're having trouble standing up, it's easier if you have a raised toilet seat. Also, does your loved one need a toilet stool? If they're too short to sit on the toilet comfortably, consider getting them a raised toilet stool so they have something comfortable to put their feet. All right. Now, also, I want to talk to you about, I have ignored the elephant on the picture here. The picture that we have here on the left, we're looking at this bathroom. You've got glare. You've got check patterns, which we didn't discuss. There's also some issues with reflected things. These can all cause hallucinations. The floor pattern, check patterns are too busy for someone with dementia. They're going to see things. They could see snakes, ants, water. They can see any number of things, and you won't understand why they are reacting. Just understand that it is very real to them. Empathize with them. Say, I am so sorry that you are so scared. Let's take you out of here and I will take care of whatever the issue is. Insert issue here. And we will just make sure that we cover whatever it is that's causing them the issue and make sure that they feel safe. And then once you've addressed that issue, then you can bring them back in and help them with the bathing or the toileting. All right, next. Here we go, as promised. Now, if they have issues getting in and out of the bathtub, you can always do a sitz bath. If you're not familiar with that, it fits on the toilet. You put warm water in there. You can put things like Epsom salts, witch hazel. I've got a list in my book of things that you can add to it that will make it easier to keep your loved one clean. And you can actually bathe them on the toilet, and also a little instruction on how to keep the bathroom from getting destroyed during this. There's also a bidet attachment. If you have some issues, you can adjust the toilet, uh, again, the water level, how much the flow is, and the temperature. They also sell them where they have lighted toilet seats so that your loved one can find the toilet in the middle of the night. We talked about raised toilet seats with handles. This is a really great tool, especially if somebody is older and they're having issues getting up and off the toilet. Now, let's look at a couple other things here. We want to talk about mirrors. The mirror on the left shows us how we see each other. When we look in the mirror, we actually see ourselves. Now, someone with dementia, depending on where they are in their dementia, they are going to be traveling back in time in their mind. So depending on where they think they are, they could think they're 25 years old and they expect to see the reflection of themselves from 25 and not the reflection of themselves as the age they are now. So if it causes them fear or it causes them a hallucination, you want to remove mirrors from wherever they are in the house. Now, if this is something in the bathroom, the things we can do, again, as I mentioned before, the first time it happens, you can slap wet paper towel up on the mirror and it disappears. You can also use cellular shades, cordless shades, roller style shades, whatever works for you, that you can, before you bring your loved one in, and you will pull it down and voila, the window is covered and there's no issue for them worrying about somebody watching them bathe. Also, tip number one is make sure you have everything ready in the bathroom before you bring your loved one in there, because all it takes is you having to leave to go grab one thing for them to either fall or to follow you out of the room, and then you have to wrangle them back in. So another thing is, you can, for a cheap fix, you can use window curtains or you can use a colorful shower curtain. So there's lots of options that you can do on a budget. Now, one thing to think about when you're working with someone with dementia is body language. Pay attention to their body language and yours. Because here's the thing to think about. If you are getting more and more upset and your shoulders are rising and you're getting tense and your teeth are gritted because you're they're just not behaving, they're reacting, and you have a short amount of time to get this done in, and everything is just falling apart. Well, they're going to react and pay attention to body language because they still read body language well into the disease. They are going to recognize these events and they are going to mirror what you give them. So they will give what they get. So if you can smile and relax and make sure that your shoulders are down and just enjoy the time and give yourself time to give them the time to relax and not rush them, because the number one issue you have with somebody with dementia is rushing them, especially as their cognition slows, and then you're going to get more pushback. So if you just have just a few tools in your toolbox to prevent these issues from happening, then yay, you are going to have less stress, and you might also have some fun memories. So now let's talk about a couple other things here. We can also create a calming environment. Now, we talked about the sitz bath, but we didn't talk about, you can also have essential oils in the bathroom to create a sense of calm, such as basil, chamomile, coriander, lavender, lemon, and neroli are all thought to help people with dementia feel more calm. So these are wonderful essential oils that you can have in the bathroom while they're bathing to help enhance the sense of calm in the bathroom. Another thing to think about with dementia care, we're going to talk about distraction and redirection, but the most important part of dementia care is routine, respect, patience, and a smile. If you can smile, do routine. Routine is all powerful. I'm going to say this 3 times: routine, routine, routine. But also, what was their routine when they were an adult, when they were a child? Did they take a bath? Did they take a shower? Were they raised during the Depression and they were number 11 of 12 children? And by the time they got into the bathtub that had been just hand-drawn water and the tub was filled with dirt, do they refuse to bathe? Did they take a bath, a spat bath out of a bucket? If you can figure out what their routine was, what things make them anxious, and then help them with that so that they don't have to deal with those things. Also, did they bathe in the morning or in the evening? If you can follow their routine, you're going to get less resistance for bathing. Don't force them into your routine. If you can get them into what was natural for them, again, it'll just be easier for you to care for them. So now, when you actually do start bathing and they're still early on in the dementia through the moderate disease, you can ask and get their permission before they start. When you get farther into the disease, you have to think for them. And I'll give you some examples of that in a few moments. But you always want to get permission first. So if you have them sitting in a shower with the shower chair, and let's say that they are wrapped in a towel or a sheet for their dignity, because you don't want them to be A, cold, or B, embarrassed. Because what if you're the opposite sex of your parent or the person that you're taking care of? Make sure that you keep them feeling dignified and not exposed. And then hold your hand up to them and have them take your hand, and then you can start washing their hand first, because you just want to make sure that they understand what's going on. And you can just use a little bit of soap and a washcloth, or you can use a wet wipe, whatever works for your loved one's skin, and walk them through the whole bathing process. Also, make sure that you do cover them with as I said, with the modesty issues, but also there's a thing called Dignity Aware from the Dignity Resource Council. I have it on my website and in my book in the resources section of my website. You can find this, and they offer Terry Dignity Wear. So for women, it's a two-piece. For men, it's a one-piece. Um, Additionally, if you use a shower chair, how about thinking about a pillow for a bath pillow for the shower chair so that they can lean back and relax? And then also, you can put a warm washcloth on their face to keep them warm for either men or women. It doesn't matter. Just make sure that they understand what you're doing and help guide them through it. Now, a little bribery never hurts. You can always offer them ice cream as a treat after they bathe. So anything that they look forward to is always going to work well. Um, Now, here's another thing. You can always tell them that a lady or gentleman caller is coming to visit and say, we have company coming over. Let's freshen up, and just guide them into the bathroom and help them get cleaned up. Now, for some people, you can create spa coupons and create a spa experience for them, and then have a guest book for them to sign into because you want to make them feel special, and then it will help enhance the bathing. Don't forget to sing and play their favorite music. And then also, as women get farther along in the disease, sometimes it helps if you put something in their hand, like a baby doll, and have them wash the doll at the same time you're washing them, because then they can put the two items together. All right. And again, I want to stress how important music is for calming someone with dementia. If you can be smiling, happy, and sing together, you can have a much better outcome. Now, let's talk about a couple other things here. Um, the don'ts of bathing. Do not use bath pearls. They can be mistaken for candy, and then your loved one might eat them. You don't want to use a jacuzzi or whirlpool bathtub because to someone with dementia, it will look like boiling water, and no one wants to climb into boiling water. Uh, don't leave them alone in the bathroom if you forget something, because it only takes 2 inches of water for someone to drown. And also, I talked about skin getting thinner as we age. You want to you don't want to rub their skin, you want to pat it dry when they get older because you don't want to create open sores on their skin. All right, let's look at a couple other things here. I have several books that I highly recommend, and I like to recommend impressive works by other authors because you may not find my writing style something that you enjoy, or you may, but these are the things that I love. So, Surviving Alzheimer's by Paula Spencer Scott is a fantastic book for teaching you how to care for somebody. Learning to Speak Alzheimer's is a really great book by Joanne Koenig Costi. This particular book really helps you with setting up your home for somebody and making it dementia friendly, and also learning how to communicate better with someone with dementia. I would be remiss in not recommending The 36-Hour Day. It is a phenomenal book. It has been an eternal bestseller for 43 years. It's a really a comprehensive book. However, if you are exhausted, you want to read it when you are fresh, not at the end of the day, because it is a meaty book and is very, very comprehensive. Now, A Loving Approach to Dementia Care by Laura Wayman, The Dementia Whisperer, is a phenomenal book. It walks you through how to connect with your loved one emotionally and walk them through to a place of safety. Now, Gail Wetherell's book, The Caregiver's Guide to Dementia, is a wonderful book. It has meditations in it. It walks you through step by step how to do certain caregiving things so you understand some of the behaviors your loved one is making. And it's a very short book. It's a very easy read, and it has resources in it. Now, my favorite book when I was doing caregiving was Creating Moments of Joy Along the Alzheimer's Journey. Joanne Brackey does a really great job walking you through vignettes explaining how to do certain things, and she gives you rich stories to help you understand how this can help your loved one. Now, my recent guest, SHEILA Warnock, was the author of Share the Care. Now, this is a phenomenal book for creating group caregiving so that you do not have to do caregiving alone and you can share the burden with other people. And what happens is that at the end, when you've finished your caregiving journey, you now have a group that you can have bonded with that you will have with you for the rest of your life. And then another one of my favorite books is Creative Care by Anne Bastings, excuse me. Um, it is a really phenomenal book about how to connect with your loved one through the arts, how to engage with them, how to learn how to communicate. She also has a website called timeslips.org, which has a place where they teach caregivers how to communicate with their loved ones. And for family caregivers, this is free, and they have for professional caregivers, there is a fee. So it's just something to think about. Now, last couple things to go over here. I want to make sure you have all the ways to reach me if you have a question. So here's my email and my website. If you sign up for my newsletter, you will immediately receive 10 steps to calming aggressive dementia behavior. And it will walk you through step by step how to take your family member from agitated to calm. Now that you understand that they have holes in their brain and it might be it might be something that you did or said, you will now understand how to walk them through to a place of safety. Additionally, while my book only has 130 resources in it, I keep updating my website regularly. It has over 150 resources now available to you, and it goes everything from adaptive clothing to wandering and everything in between. And it also has sites to recommend translation languages if you need help translating English into your native tongue to understand medical things that you have got that you don't know exactly what they're saying. Now, also freebies on my website, and this one is really near and dear to my heart, is the meltdown trigger list. This is a way for you to connect with your loved one so that you can find out what's causing them to melt down. It explains to look for things in the environment, what's happening, what's the temperature, what's the weather, what's going on in the room, is there a bunch of noise, so that you can see what the triggers are. Once you've identified the triggers by recording this for 3 or 4 days in a row, it'll become apparent what's causing the problem. And then you can write down at the bottom all of this and the things that you used to redirect your loved one that worked. Now you have a respite tool. So anybody that comes in the house, whether it's a family member, friend, professional caregiver, you can give them this list because now they know how not to cause these problems. And also, if it does happen, they have ways of solving the problem. So you get some downtime. The last thing I want to mention is you can also reach me on my social at Facebook, either at Tracy Cram Perkins or at Tracy Cram Perkins author on Facebook. I post stuff there regularly. You can talk to me there as well. You can reach out through me through Messenger. And the last thing I want to share with you is to say thank you very much for your time and attention. And I want to let you know that we will be back on October 15th, and our guest will be Marie Ferrer from Seniors Helping Seniors. Marie specializes in teaching older adults how to recognize and avoid scams. And we will also be discussing how to help our loved ones with dementia avoid scams. In the meantime, you can go over to our YouTube channel at USA Global TV and Radio and look for the Dementia Home Care Show playlist, where you'll find all our past episodes. Thank you to the wonderful Dr. Jacqueline for all of her hard work behind the scenes, and thank you to our sponsors for making this possible. See you next time.
Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.